Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, man.
So, how
How
you
you doing?
doing? What do
Alhamdulillah.
you think about Melbourne?
Melbourne is practically the easiest city I've been in till yet. But yeah, it's cozy. It's pretty unpredictable in terms of weather. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it's
that's the one thing it's known for. They say 4 seasons in a day
yeah.
for Melbourne.
I've seen them all in their extremes.
Alright,
It's
so without further ado, I'll get started. So
mhm.
first of all, um, for our audience, which is typically Western Muslim youth, they don't know you much. They've seen a bit of you here and there. So I want to of course, you can introduce yourself the best. So I want to sort of ask you, who are you? Who is Sahil Adeem?
Well, I'm trying my best to um, represent the kind of I am just an attempt for a simplest representation of a Muslim mindset, especially living in the Western countries, so that I can resonate, people can actually relate and see that, yeah, you know what, this is the guy who's, these are the thoughts that are already brewing in my head. This is just an expression. This guy is just a walking expression. And he's connecting the dots between those problems that I actually face and never talk about because my folks never understand it because they were not born in Australia. I was. And they're not understanding the kind of worldview that I have developed. And they're not equipped with the grammar that I speak in. So everybody needs that guy who's going to channel the problem with the solution. And I am merely an attempt to get those solutions to them and to make sure that they start to actually believe that, you know, they're not alone. It's every man's thought. Whoever is going to be born, you know, in a culture which is stronger, dominant, more giving than the household that they're born into. Muslims are mostly these days, in the last few hundred years, are born into a superstitious household, which they don't really understand themselves. And unless we start tagging that and classifying that properly, kids are not going to understand why their mommy or daddy is not answering the questions properly. Because you guys are not used to grays. If you cannot understand it, you're going to get a very obvious confusion, and you're going to have to get rid of that confusion. But it's the most amazing thing that I see in overseas Muslims is that they're okay living with that confusion, not knowing those answers, which are innate and very loud.
Yeah.
It's okay for them. But kids your age, you're not okay. No one's supposed to be okay. That's a very,
Of course.
it's a big event that, Muslims today are okay with not knowing the answers of, basic concepts of life, and they're just going to live 50, 60 years on it.
So the thing is, you explain that you give solutions to these problems, you know?
Yeah, I'm
The
trying to
thing is,
connect the dot. Yes, yeah.
why should Muslims listen to what you say?
No, Muslims should listen to everybody and try and get their own sense out of things. It's not about me or anybody else. Okay? Whoever is going to connect them with their Prophet ﷺ and get a rationale in and or talk through the avenues of common sense and, your basic sets of knowledge that kids in their 20s have, 15, 20, 15, 16, 17 is the thinking age. That's the age where your brain actually starts to generate real questions. Before that, you're not thinking. After this age, you start demanding answers. Most Muslims in their 50s are not equipped to give answers. That's why most Muslims who are currently in their 50s do not have kids who are obedient to their philosophies. Okay, it's not just Australia or overseas, everywhere. Any philosopher any believer of a philosophy who does not really understand the structure of his belief is not going to be able to generate, the next generation into his belief because he does not have the eloquence to explain the ways around this whole philosophy. And we are not just philosophers as Muslims.
Yeah.
We have a very clear ideology which is going to demand a lot of stuff. And Muslims naturally carry those demands. They do not know how to articulate those demands to their kids, let alone explain the function of them or sense of understanding why this demand is there in the first place.
So many things you say, as we know, you're very, especially in Pakistan and stuff, refuted by scholars. This that very controversial person. What do you think? Why do you think you are controversial?
I'm, well, you'll have to enlist a few so that I can actually uh, go bit by bit. However, general resistance I'm getting from the mainstream scholarship is about the ideology, the core, the philosophy of why Islam demands or whatever it demands. And I'm pretty extreme in explaining, in their point of view, I'm pretty extreme. I'm not controversial. I'm true extreme. And wherever there is that word controversy spoken is about those concepts of the Quran, where I'm actually propagating and explaining in mere basic terms that Quran is demanding a totally different geometry of the universe, making you understand bigger objectives, and the way science is trying to open tiny little doors. Quran opens bigger and wider doors towards understanding the whole concept of why we are here.
So I want
What's
to
the
speak to you about that a little bit. The Quran and science. What does Quran say about science?
Science is just another name of understanding the a human attempt to understand what universe looks like and how it behaves like, so that we can adjust to it. That's science, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to adjust to the behavior of the universe. Now, if you do not know the geometry of the universe, how are you going to behave accordingly? Quran actually explains the literal geometry of the whole seven heavens. Okay,
Wow.
Science only tries to explain as best it, and most of it is just a calculated conjecture of the cosmic background and the first heaven. They don't call it the first heaven; they call it the entirety of the whole universe. So, okay, here's the thing: if you do not know where you are in, what's the make of this whole universe is, then you're not going to be able to do much about this.
Mm.
Every single progress that any human being has made has come from the basic concept of understanding the makeup of this whole, the world that we're in. It's not just, understanding who I am, but where I am and how it all behaves around me. Hence the laws of physics and, understanding cosmology and astronomy.
Mm.
And that changes everything, literally everything. If we have a different definition of the universe, we're a different species altogether. And this is what Muslims are not understanding right now. We cannot bow down to an attempt which is going to be refuted in less than 10 years from science.
Mm.
And it's okay. They're not claiming that this is what it is. They're saying this is what it is till now. We're going to discover more, and then we'll formulate some other hypothesis. So the Quran is not going to follow a human being's intellect. Quran is going to set it. Quran is going to be oblivious to it, literally.
Mm.
Okay, Quran is the intellect of the maker of the universe. Okay, of course, a book from the intellect of the maker of the universe.
So the Quran mentions the sky a lot. So Surah Mulk, Surah Tariq, it goes to reference again and again about what's up.
Yeah.
So what does this sort of tell us as Muslims?
Well, two things. It's a very good question. First of all, it shows a human being of how infinite his imagination should be.
Mm.
Okay, and that changes everything. Okay, that actually raises the bar. It actually widens the actual horizon of how we should actually present our own selves to each other. Okay, to the universe. Now, I'm using the expression of philosophy a lot, but understand what I'm trying to get at. Let me give you an example. We would not have invented the airplane if we did not know how the atmosphere works. Okay?
Yeah.
We would not have actually, and this is the most basic example. Now, keep that in mind while I say this next statement. We would not have been as moral as we are or can be if we do not understand how this universe works around us. Okay? So it's not just about the morality. I just purposely picked that out so that you can understand this is how important it is. And from morality to expansion of our horizon of progress, of how we can actually reach towards bigger and, wider goals of sustaining ourselves as a species. Understanding the value of knowledge becomes way more pivotal. For example, if we did not understand this concept of physics, and we didn't for so long, we were just using so much, we didn't really open the minds towards understanding how this planet behaves. We would not have invented a diaper. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. This is how simple I'm going to tell you things are. Now, once we understand how this whole structure of the universe behaves, it actually sets the horizon, the scope of human beings, the whole community, the mind of the whole species. And to strengthen the mind of the whole species, we need to understand the actual truth around the whole geometry and the symmetry and the makeup of little and big things around, the whole planets and galaxies and everything. Now, if there is a certain model of progress which says that this is it, whatever you see is what you see, and if you can go there, good enough. 1,000 years ago, people did not, or 2,000 years, maybe a little, time. The Tao philosophy at that time did not really realize, what these constellations represent. They used them to maneuver around paths on the planet.
Yeah.
Okay, just merely for directions.
Sort of one question I have.
No, don't, because I'm not even, because everyone's going to get confused as to why I was telling you all of this.
Yeah.
A man from 3,000 years ago, when he looked at the skies, okay, he couldn't comprehend, since he couldn't comprehend the entirety and the scope of how grand all of this schema is, he couldn't put anything to use in this planet for himself and other people. Now that we know what Jupiter looks like and how big it is, how sun works and how big it is, or where it is and how it behaves and moves, and then Andromeda and other galaxies and trillions and trillions and trillions of galaxies, so now we behave differently on this planet, not just between two human beings. I'm talking about as a human being. Now we're trying to actually go to Mars or wherever we can. That actually gives us a lot more energy and power to invent more stuff, to go faster than light, in our advent to chase bigger goals. So as a civilization, the concept of universe is pivotal. As a civilization, we need to understand what all of this actually is.
And the Quran encourages this.
Quran actually enforces it. Okay?
Really?
It enforces you to look up and think. Okay? It enforces it. Every book Allah has ever written is all about the geometry of the universe. Okay? Human beings needed a guiding light to translate all of that because we can't really feel it. We can just see it. And we're so minuscule that we can't really comprehend how big all of this is. Okay? And as soon as we start to do that, all of a sudden our definitions and goals and our definitions of reach changes. Okay? Not just the reach, but understanding what reach should be. And that actually changes the scope of how a human mind behaves. Okay? I mean, I can't even do the math on the difference between a mind of a physicist and a layman behaving towards, the bigger objectives of the species. Okay? So this is as basic as I'm going to make it, but since we're so far away from it, most people are not even going to understand, let alone put it to use of whatever I'm saying right now. So it's a big difference between the intellect and the behavior of a human being who actually understands all of this versus a guy who really, thinks these are just lights, dimming lights, Which,
so if this is so apparent in the Quran, we've been given this book for 1400 years. Why have Muslims not sort of taken this as
They
a
had.
serious?
All of astronomy was invented by Muslims.
Really?
Yeah, well, not invented, because that's the wrong word, discovered. But the first generation after the Sahabas, the Tabeins, they actually used the energy from the Quran to actually, ponder, formulate, translate, understand, comprehend whatever's going on. This is not a luxury. See, most people think this is a luxury because it's got nothing to do with the way we're living in this planet. It is literally dependent on how you look at the universe, okay, of how you're going to behave on this planet as a single human being. It is this is way more important to understand how the universe behaves, the physics of it. It is way more important because the definitions of your own self changes once you understand it. You know what? This is, not, we're not living in water, we're living in air. It changes the way we're going to actually take the next step because it's going to be air dependent. Okay, if we're living in water, we would have had a totally different lifestyle, different definitions of progress, different definitions of literally intellect. Now that we understand this is air, we've broken it up and see, what kind of nitrogen, how much nitrogen, how much oxygen, okay? We've literally progressed because of the way we perceive things. Okay, and I'm talking to kids, so that's why I'm using this kind of terminology and phrase. So understand how important all of this is. If you do not understand the importance of it, you're not going to chase you're not going to have that surge of going towards the reality of it. You need to understand how important it is. That's the one thing that's taken away from Muslims. The sensitivity of understanding the truth is more important than the truth itself. Okay? Understanding the sensitivity of it. Because this is the only energy to sustain it through generations. Even if I do understand the truth right now, I will not be able to sustain it in the next 3-4 generations. But if I understand the sensitivity of understanding the truth, I'm going to have 100 generations surging towards the truth, and they're going to find their own truth their own way. But if they do not know why it's so important, they're not going to pay heed to it.
So you're basically sort of encouraging the Muslim youth to get into sciences, learn from the Quran.
Well, science is now a way, but science is too slow. Science is so slow that it's taken us hundreds and hundreds of years to come up with as basics as the periodic table and understanding the relativity of light and matter.
What's faster than that then?
See, your human mind is faster than that. We've actually densed it up so much. Now, I'm not dissing science here. That is the best attempt we have right now, right?
Yeah.
But if you compare it with, if I give you a book which is going to have everything in it, okay, about the whole game plan of what this universe is and how it works like, all of a sudden, you're going to be ashamed of physics and biology, right? Because that book is going to tell everything, and then we'll have to autocorrect every single definition, the way we look at laws of motion and the laws of energy. All of a sudden, we will look very dumb to ourselves. Okay? This is what I'm saying the Quran is making us move towards, because it is giving us the bigger geometry of things. All of us, if I am telling you, like an example, if Isaac Newton was a Muslim, not a Christian, he would have had a lot more progress in physics, because he's actually putting all of this progress in the Bible. Because the Bible has less astronomy, less cosmology, okay, less astrophysics in there. The Quran has so much.
And we're not using it.
If you're not using it because, it's tabooed out of us. It's literally tabooed out of us.
Why do you think the scholars, or basically the Muslim community, sort of look down upon astronomy from Islamic perspective and sciences? Why do you think that is?
I don't
It's
know.
not encouraged that much. Why do you think that is?
No, I don't know if they look down upon astronomy or not, but see, Muslims have gone through a lot of problems. And if your house is on fire, literally, you're not talking about the college degree of your eldest son at that point. You're going to try and put out the fire. So I understand why Muslims actually didn't behave the way they should have behaved towards the education of all of their as an ummah, we're not educated, we're not exposed, we're not. But the cause is not the kind of economic or financial problems or political problems we went through. The cause is the lack of the understanding of the way humans behave. We actually took our system for granted. We had a singular center, singular system, for 1,200 years. And instead of gaining energy from it, instead of understanding how it is actually helping us progress, pushing us towards more intellect and acumen and a bigger and better sense of all of this, we took that whole system for granted. And as soon as that system went, now all of us are behaving as, there's a certain critical panic that every individual Muslim is going through. We're reacting towards the situations. We're not creating any situation. We're just, and that is because we lost our center. Any and every civilization requires a single center which actually takes care of most of, the needs of the individual. Okay? That's the job of creating a center. That's everybody. That's why every civilization has a single center.
How do we bring that center back?
Yeah, I'll tell you. We'll get to that. But that's not your first question. The first question is, why are we so evasive from sciences? So now that we have bigger problems, well, not bigger, but more visible problems, which are not going to be solved through science, like lack of morality, lack of financial capability as a community, lack of resources. And that's common sense to actually get those first. If I can't, if I can't feed my kids, I'm not going to talk about their education. So this is what the problem is, and that's a political side of things. So that's the cause. If we have, Abu Hanifa once said, Adamul Khilafa Umul Khabais, that if you take the center out, then every disease is going to come in, because that's the mother of all disease, of not having a center. Because then there's not going to be education, morality, there's not going to be law and regulation, processes and systems. And now that it's, that's why do you think your father came to Australia? To chase a system.
Yeah.
Okay? He was inspired by the system. You need to understand how
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody goes from no system to a system. That's a natural need, so that the system can take care of most of my needs, and I can take care of my children's needs. Okay? That's why, that's how we compare, different places on the planet right now. And everybody starts to move towards, bigger and better systems that can take care of their, bigger worries, basic worries. So Muslims right now, since they do not understand this very concept of how this, the structure of, this anthropological view is not there. And it's not a headache. Generally, it shouldn't be a headache of a regular human being, of how a human community behaves. Okay? It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because that's the job of the governors, right?
Yeah.
But now, as you and me, as individuals, we need to understand how human beings behave, because we do not have the governance. We do not have anybody who's going to take care of all of those bigger matters. Okay? And since that's not there, it's become a headache of every single one of us. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. That's the bigger problem. Most of your questions are going to come from that problem. I'm going to tell you, I haven't read all of your questions.
Yeah.
But most of the questions of most of the Muslims only have one answer. If we do not have a single center, you're going to have these kind of questions, because these questions are coming from problems because of the lack of governance.
It's perfect, because I was about to talk about the main issue that's going around media right now, which is the Palestine issue. And I think the problem is the same.
Yeah,
same
if we
reason.
had a single center calling decisions, the Palestine issue would not have even been there to begin with. Okay?
So I understand that, but what's the steps we need to take to get to that main center?
Educate enough people so that they can put enough pressure in the right kind of places wherever they are. Okay? So, see, the corporate endorses and enforces and empowers the franchise. The franchises do not empower the corporate. Okay? they're just the representation of the power of the corporate. Take a franchise of Apple, an Apple store here. It's going to comply with what? The Australian policies? No, it's going to comply with the Apple policies from the headquarters, right? It's a franchise. It's going to behave the way the corporate wants it to behave. Whatever goals there are, of course, that's a business goal they're trying to chase. But the values of an Apple franchise in Melbourne are going to come straight from America, the headquarters of Apple. Okay? And you as a consumer not only respect that, but expect it. You expect those values of Apple, those standards to be met every single time. You understand me?
Yeah.
So who is actually empowering the franchise? Who are you depending on? When you go to an Apple franchise, who are you depending on? The headquarter, right?
Yeah.
You need the people in the headquarter to understand this, and you need to, you need the franchise customer services rep to abide by the policies of the headquarters.
Yeah.
Because that is not that franchise is not in the advertisement, throwing in the commitment of how we're going to behave or how the quality of the product is going to be. That's the headquarter pumping all of this. So when the Quran is our headquarter, it is advertising their kind of standards. And you and me are the franchise of the Quran, right? But if you don't behave as a franchise of the Quran, then we are literally massacring the standards of the Quran in front of everybody, and that's why no one's going to depend on not just the Quran, but even me. So we, as human beings, are not designed to behave individually. We're designed to behave as with a single center and everybody orbit it, the Kaaba. Okay, that is the model which Allah Azza wa Jalla said. This is my signature here. That's the logo of Islam. That's the brand. Single center, everybody revolving around the center. Okay, and that's the model every human being is using. Every corporate is using. Every country, every empire ever used. Single center, every layer, circling around the whole system, philosophy, values, laws, processes. But we're not doing it because we were made to run solo. This is not how it's going to ever work. It didn't work for non-Muslims. And it worked really well for non-Muslims when they behaved the way the Quran is telling us to behave. There are more than 91 countries American armies deployed. Yeah. But they're deployed because of a single constitution in America. That gives them the power in wherever, African countries or Asian countries, wherever they are. When we look at any franchise of any corporate body, we get intimidated by the corporate body, not the franchise.
Yeah.
That's the Kaaba right there. And we're just not taking that into account.
So basically, you're trying to say that us Muslims, you sort of use the Kaaba as a metaphor, like everyone is meant to look at us.
It's not a metaphor. It's the model. It's the brand logo. Apple has Apple, right? Yeah. Islam has the Kaaba. Okay. Single center, setting laws, processes, procedures, values, mission, vision, everything. Single center. And everyone in concentric circles around it, wherever they are. So, unless they're all connected to a single center and believing that this is our single center, which means governance as well. We're not governed by a single center. We have 35 different centers from Malaysia to Libya. All of the Muslim states have different centers, different laws and regulations. Okay. And they made it more of a cultural matter.
What I'm trying to ask is, Muslims, as we know, used to be one single state.
Yeah.
Or the sort of the English back then was like Arabic. Everyone spoke Arabic.
Yeah.
It was basically the language everyone spoke. All countries from Iran to Pakistan, everywhere. So what do you think now all of a sudden they've basically split apart? What do you think caused, my question is basically, what do you think caused the disunity of Muslims?
Us. You can't blame Winston Churchill. We did this. Okay. Our greed, our lack of understanding the bigger benefit. And you know what? I'm talking to all the greedy people as well. If you want to fulfill your greed, you want to fill your your banks, you still need that single center. You're going to be way more powerful if you have a single center.
True.
You're going to be more richer. You're going to be prosperous. You're going to have bigger, higher standards of everything for you and your kids. If you have a single center backing you up all the time, it's going to take care of most of your headaches. You're going to be more, content. But we were given this little spin off from our center, and given that everybody was given that sense of independence that you can do it on your own. That's called taghut. Okay. As soon as you break out from the center, think of yourself as a solo decision maker about whatever laws and procedures supposed to be upon you. It's called taghut in Islam. Okay. You can't break out from the center. And it's not a spiritual center. It's a legal center. It's not an emotional center. It's a practical, rational center, which is called governance. You have to have a single governing body so that everybody gets connected. Okay? And now we're very, very well connected with the Australian government here. And that has nothing to do with the single central philosophy of Islam. So you are naturally going to have inferiority complex, cognitive dissonance, lack of self-esteem, no self-belief, gray self-worth, weird and spotted self-image. All of this is a problem that you're actually going to face.
Because of not having a single...
You have two centers. If you have two centers, you're doomed. You're personally shattered. That's why shirk, that's why taghut are such big problems in Islam. Biggest ever. Nothing else comes close to them. Because you're nobody then.
Do you think this is the main problem Muslims in Western countries are facing today?
Muslims anywhere are facing today. Muslims in Muslim countries don't have Muslim centers. Pakistanis do not have a Muslim government. They have a Muslimish, Muslim-looking, but not an Islamic government. Otherwise, Palestine, you think that Palestine would be burning if Pakistan had a Muslim governance? No. Even a single country, let alone Pakistan. Pakistan has a lot of resource. Any other country, if it had a Muslim governance model, Palestine wouldn't have been a problem.
So I want to talk to you a bit about what's going on in Palestine right now. And most of as you know, Australia is a pro-Israel country. The Prime Minister himself, he said, pay my respects to Israel. And sort of, whenever you try to argue with people who are pro-Israeli, they always ask the same question: do you condemn what Hamas did? So what's your response to that if I ask you, do you condemn what Hamas did?
No, absolutely not. I don't condemn anything if it starts with Hamas, and he's really saying it. Okay? I condemn the very concept of this bully called American policy about Israel. Okay? Israel wouldn't have existed the way it's existing right now if America did not start to back it up in the 60s. Before that, even America didn't back it up. Every common sense guy would say what I'm saying right now. Who gives anybody the right to just barge in and start making, headways into the personal space of other people and claim it as an innate right to kill, to take away their land, property, everything, and then justify that, since we are here now, it is the right of us to defend ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Well, okay, if that's the rule, then, you got to tell us where you got that sense from. And if you're going to throw the Bible at us, the Torah to be exact, then okay, let's just play book versus book. Torah is the only argument of Israel.
They follow everything in it.
No. They're presenting to the world, an unbelieving world, that since this is our promised land, that's why we are here, doing whatever we can. Nobody is saying in Israel, never have they ever said that we bought this land, so,
Because it's written in the book that it's their promised land.
Yeah, that's what That's Netanyahu's basic argument as well. Every Jew would say that. This is our promised land in the book. Okay, well, if that's the argument, then we have a bigger, fatter book.
Yeah, and it's promised land for us as well then.
No, every land is promised to Muslims.
Yeah.
لِيُظْهِرَهُ الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. All of the world is going to see the dominance of Islam. Okay, let's just see it then. Let's start with you guys. That's what I'm saying. No, hold on. I'm not even getting warmed up yet. Listen. Hamas is a reaction to any bully. What do you want me to just sit down and just, smile at you and turn the other cheek if you kill my kids? This is not on. And even if Hamas makes some mistakes, I'm not going to condemn any of them. Even if they make mistakes during this, what do you expect a nobody who has one arm? He's not even going to try and swim himself out of the deepest part of the ocean. He's not even supposed to make an attempt. You're measuring Hamas's quality of attacks now? They're actually measuring the quality of the attack of Hamas. Are you kidding me? The most sophisticated armaments are with Israel.
Yeah.
Absolutely no arms factory, well, let alone anything. They're trying to make bombs in the house. Salute and hats off to them. They're still trying to do whatever they can inside their homes to make, bombs and bullets.
Yeah.
So, if with that kind of arsenal, this is the least they can do. This is the least they can do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we sort of see from the Western, even the Muslim countries, we see protests, boycotts, all this stuff, and it's been going on for 80 years. Every time we see
it is never going to do anything because we do not have a single center.
Yeah. So since the single center is a problem, my question is, then we should work towards that problem.
We should fix it, and only boys and girls of your age are going to fix it. Those old folks have proven to be not only dumb but incompetent and arrogant on top. So they're not going to move an inch moving towards a single center.
And we've seen it from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It was mostly the young people who embraced Islam first. The old ones usually...
No old man is ever going to just give up his, whatever he's done. It's just mere arrogance, nothing else. Sheer arrogance. Literally. Bigotry. That they think that they've spent so much time on this planet. They know more? No. They've literally proven to us that they've wasted their lives. I'm talking about Muslim old people right now. They've wasted they've made sure that they waste the next generation as well. Boys like you are going to ensure that this does not happen.
Isn't that a bit harsh to them, though?
I don't think I have enough words in the dictionary to describe the kind of problem that they've created. Harsh? Are you kidding me with this? Do you know? Have you ever imagined the day of judgment? I'll tell you who's going to define what is harsh or not. You know who's going to define harsh? Not you and me. The child who was burnt alive with the white phosphorus. That's going to define what is harsh or not, to be described as a disease that brews inside your heart right now. We're incompetent, impotent. We are terrified, timid. We are castrated Muslims. Harsh? There are no words in the dictionary to decide to define the level of problem that we actually are carrying in our as individuals and as people. So be harsher towards ashidda'u ala al-kuffari wa ruhama'u baynahum. That's the order, that you have to be as strict as you can be for the non-believer if he is committing, whatever Israel is committing. And we're talking about Hamas here.
Yeah.
Can you believe we're talking about Hamas? And most Muslims, when they talk about Hamas, they did something wrong. I want to, change my planet and species. That this is what a human being is going to, stoop down to. For 70 years, Hamas can't even do in 700 years what Israel does in 1 day. And still we have the guts to compare this, these little apples of Hamas with the tanks of Israel. We're comparing apples and tanks. Literally, they're throwing apples. Not metaphorically. Literally, that's all they're left with.
Yeah, it's true.
You're comparing apples with tanks?
That's true. So sort of, I was talking about protests, this, that. And then you got some Muslims on the other side, they say, we're going to wait for Imam Mahdi. So what is your response to them?
That is the biggest disease a Muslim boy can have if he says, all I'm doing is waiting for Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi, you better understand that you're the first person Imam Mahdi is going to come and butcher alive. That he's going to say, you're actually slowing down every single aspect of Muslim progress and development and defense because you're waiting for me, doing nothing but waiting. That's Islam? Waiting for Imam Mahdi's? What kind of Islam is this? What kind of human being are you that, you're not going to do anything because you're waiting for some guy to come and help you? Imam Mahdi is not going to take you in your army if you were sitting around doing nothing waiting for him. He's going to pick a guy with a resume. Okay? Anybody who wants to do anything serious picks out his team of individuals with resumes. This is not a resume. You know what? Sahil adeem. Major achievement, waiting for Imam Mahdi. Imagine that. Yeah. That's the cancer. This is why I'm saying I can't even begin to be harsh with these old folks. These are the dumbest generations in the last 2-3 generations. Dumbest human beings I've ever seen. You know which one I'm talking about? The Muslim generations. They've done nothing but harm to Islam and our akhirah. Literally. They've literally made sure that we don't even smell, the airs of heaven.
So you were talking about, we can't just sit and wait for Imam Mahdi to come. We have to do something else.
You are the Imam Mahdis. You boys, you girls of your age, you are the Imam Mahdis, okay? You guys need to understand how important these statements are. You are the Imam Mahdis.
So let's say there's a Muslim youth in Western nation, America, UK, whatever, or even in a Muslim country, and they're ready to give it all for Islam. They're ready to give everything, their money, the time, everything. They're just ready, but they just don't know the path. What should they do? Should they?
It's all going to go to waste.
What steps would you give them?
All Muslims should work towards wherever they're from. For example, I'm from Pakistan. I have to declare in my own mind first that Pakistan, in my mind, envision it, that Pakistan is going to be the next center of Islam. Okay? If I envision that Libya is going to be, I'm not going to be able to do much about it. Okay? To understand that if you cannot conquer your own house, how are you going to conquer the world? So all of us, as I'm talking about Pakistanis or all Muslims, wherever they're from, determine the necessary force so that we can convert Pakistan into the center of Islam. We as Pakistanis have a handicap. We made the country in the name of making it the center of Islam.
Yeah.
We literally declared it that whoever is a Muslim is a citizen of Pakistan.
Yeah.
Okay. And if Pakistanis cannot do it, I'm sorry. People in, other countries, they don't even know. And they have 2 extra steps to take. We've already taken those steps. Gathered everybody up, announced it to the world, made sure that it actually happens. It's the toughest step. Then we ruin it all, in a downward spiral, giving it to good-looking people or good-sounding people who had nothing to do with Islam. They never said they're going to be taking care of, the Islamic side of things. They actually were repulsed by Islam. We, in our own inferiority complexes, made sure that people from Liaqat Ali Khan to Yahya Khan and Musharraf and Imran Khan, all of these people come in and take the throne, even though they never, ever said that they're going to do it the Islamic way. They're going to make it a center of Islam. No, they never said that.
Let's say for the people, because of our audience, we'll say this for the people here. What should they do?
Three things, 4 things, but one thing Australia is going to take care of it anyway. Your moral capital is coming from moral values of the West, which is okay. They had a system, and system binds people together, and if everybody's bound together in a tighter string of law, then morality, grows naturally. Morality does not grow individually. Morality grows as groups.
Yeah.
Okay? We behave with each other under certain laws, and our moral fiber, strengthens.
So saying Muslims should be together.
Yeah, of course, that's primary. But since Australia had a law, the Western value system was Commonwealth. Victoria did most of the work. Now, every Australian is morally better Muslims than Muslims of Pakistan or India.
Yeah.
You come in here, you spend a day here, you're going to find out.
Yeah.
They're morally behaving way more, they're way better in their behavior than Muslims in the dominant countries of Islam. Okay, where Islam is dominant, like Pakistan or Bangladesh or Afghanistan. So, how does that work? It works it's a simple, understanding of how human beings come together.
Yeah.
Morality is innate. It's a demand of every human being. So we're all tightly knit together. We're going to behave morally because that comes from within. And it's a natural demand. It's based on fairness and empathy.
Yeah.
Do you see empathy in Muslim-dominated areas? No. You see empathy in Western-dominated. That's where they start from. The word empathy is literally. I'm not being sarcastic here. This is not a metaphor. Muslims have never used this word empathy in Muslim-dominated countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, India. They don't even know this word exists.
Even though the Prophet ﷺ was most empathetic.
Yeah. You have to understand how this problem is. There is no word of empathy in Urdu. You know that? They didn't even come up with the word of empathy in Urdu. The most basic reason of why Western civilizations are prospering as, great human beings with each other, whatever. I'm talking about, your basic dealings with each other.
Yeah.
So, you're a regular guy on the street, working in the office, coming home every day, driving around, making sure he doesn't break any law. This is all based on empathy. You need to understand the way you and I have to behave with our families and friends and, everybody who's going to be in our community is based on empathy. And there's no word for empathy in my language. Do you think I'm going to be trained on creating systems?
Yeah.
No. So who's going to train me? Wherever this word is, practiced daily with a sense of justice that if I don't, I need to be punished. It is a demand of empathy that I better be punished because I need the other guy to be punished if he breaks that law. You understand me?
Yeah.
So you take the moral capital from Australia, man. And then you take another thing from Australia, the financial capital. Okay? Your moral capital and the financial capital should come from the Western systems. Okay? And then your political capital can be taken from Australia as well, even though Australia is practically a nobody in the bigger game. Yeah. But it's way bigger than Pakistan. So learn how to do all of this, create influence, become a lot more eloquent in the way you understand this world. Your world view should be way better and well constructed. In Melbourne,
how do you make that world
you read,
better?
you understand how
Read what?
The political science of how things are working, the systems, what's going on around the American side and the Chinese side and the Russian side, and how human beings are behaving around this. Okay? In Pakistan, you don't even get real news. You don't even have books to read all of this.
Yeah. Do you have some book recommendations for the youth here?
Yeah, first of all, for Muslims, for Muslim youth, I need them to start with Sira. That is the finest book on political science. Yeah. Okay, get the stencil in. Then you're going to measure any other philosophy or technology or technique or behavior. Our stencil is our prophet. We have to go through political science as a subject and start chapter 1, Siratul Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay?
So what book do you recommend in the Sirah?
Well, there's no one book on Sirah. Sirah is a history of the Prophet.
Just as a starter,
Start with get as much as you can, as much content as you can, because every writer has certain limitations of time and wherever he's writing from. So the more writers you're going to read, the more understanding you're going to have of how to understand the psychology and the philosophy of the Prophet ﷺ around little and big things.
So you recommend the Seerah. Is there any other books you would like to recommend?
Well, no, for now, you go into understanding the history, read history. If you do not know history, you're not supposed to comment on anything. Read the history of at least 5 regions on this planet: Rome, Greece, Jerusalem, Medina, and well, in modern history, you go through America, and Europe, and England,
Yeah.
and so this is history. Once you understand the history, you're going to find out why things are behaving the way countries are behaving, nations are behaving the way they're behaving. You have to go a little further back in time.
Because they say history repeats itself.
Because human beings behave the way they behave. We are who we are. That's the real way of saying history repeats itself. Okay, we are who we are. So we as individuals are always going to behave as the way we are. And even if there's a change that's going to be so minuscule, you can't even read it off the map in the longer run. And as a group, we've always behaved the way we are behaving. Okay, that's why we need to read history to understand how human beings have behaved. Okay, as people and as individuals.
So if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong. Some of the advice you gave is to basically for the Muslim youth here to come together, sort of.
No, not come together. Not just come together. First of all, moral capital, financial capital, political capital. Understand this is basic.
Yeah.
Okay, this is basic, and if we cannot connect these things together with everybody else in the 2 billion community of Muslims, then we are the cancer. Cell of cancer is a cell of our body.
Yeah.
Okay, but it starts behaving individually, in isolation, against the policies and the processes of the body. So we are a practical example of any cancer cell.
Yeah.
If you're not, behaving as one body. So how do we do that? We connect everybody. That's hence the political influence in Australia. Muslims better understand why they're actually becoming politically savvy. Okay, and if they're not going to understand why, they're never going to do it in the first place. Okay, so once you know that you need to connect with Muslims in Sudan and Indonesia and Malaysia and Pakistan and India and the Arabs, you need to make sure that you do. I'll tell you something, and if you think, it's too larger than life, you cannot do that, I'll tell you how easy it is, and you're already doing it. If I tell you to launch a product on YouTube or social media for your business reasons, you are going to connect it to Sudan and Somalia and Egypt and Afghanistan, Pakistan, because that's your consumer base. You're going to be a billionaire, and for that, you need to connect with 2 billion consumers, right?
Yeah.
So if you can do that there, and you would know exactly how to strategize all of this, why can't you do it for Allah Azza wa Jalla in the Day of Judgment?
So I want to stay on that point a bit. Thing is, the youth here and a lot of in the Western countries, they have all the energy to make money and this, that. I want you to tell me the concept of wealth in Islam.
Well, wealth is nothing if you not understand what's it for. Most of the wealth on the model that we're living our lives on is not going to be spent by us or our kids. Okay, it's going to go into some savings to mitigate the fear that we have of the worst case scenarios we keep building in our heads.
Yeah.
Most of the money we make is so that we won't use it. That's the ideology around making money of a man who's alive right now. He wants to keep it so that he would want to use it whenever the time be. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the philosophy of money right now. I'm telling you, that's not even 1% of the kind of money that's going to travel through your banks if you have the right purpose. Be spenders on your purpose. Do not become collectors. Okay? If you want to spend and you need to spend on your purpose, you need a lot of money. You need a lot more money. I need Muslims to be way, way more wealthier.
Okay, so you actually want them to be richer.
Yeah, a lot more. 1,000,000 times more. But as spenders on the on the right things with a purpose that, we're going to have to.
And what's the right things?
I'll give you a case study. Israel.
Yeah.
Why do you think Jews are so rich and powerful?
Israel.
Oh, you telling me, right? Yeah, Israel. If there was no concept of Israel, Jews would not be that powerful. And Israel just came about 70 years ago. Jews has been powerful for a thousand years. They already had that concept. They were trying to build it. They were connected with that concept of Israel. And that concept gave them enough energy and sustenance to become powerful.
Yeah.
The kind of philosophy that I and you have as Muslims, we're never going to be rich. A human being does not have the energy to sustain his own fascination. Let me repeat that. A human mind is never going to have, a human being is never going to have that energy to sustain his fascinations. So he's never going to be rich enough that I require him to be. That's why you see, complacency coming in. People just getting used to it. Just getting lazy and procrastinating over bigger decisions, even for money. But if I have a purpose to make money, then I will never lose that fascination of making money. Okay, a bigger purpose, way wider of a scope, then I'd make 1,000,000 times more money, and I would never lose the energy.
Because a lot of the youth here, I've seen one thing in common. They all say they want to be rich. They want to be rich. So if they could drive that energy towards,
A bigger,
spending money,
stronger purpose. Yeah. Oh my God, they'd be richer. But then you know what? They wouldn't really need that money if they had the right purpose. We'll talk about that some other day. Go on. What's the next question?
All right. I'll just wrap up this point first. So I was talking about what a Muslim used to do. You said sort of build a capital, read the seerah, read history books. Is there anything else you want to mention about this?
About
the action steps a Muslim used to take.
At your age, that's what I'm talking to a 16-year-old right now. That's what I'm saying. Do right now. I'm just giving you a concept of moral, mental, political, and financial. Moral, mental, political, financial. These 4 capitals you need to gain. But right now, your mental capital is during the age where you need to gain mental capital. You're not supposed to think money right now. You're supposed to think IQ, exposure, intelligence, knowledge, truth. These are your assets right now at your age. Dollar is not your asset. Big car, no. Girls, no. Your asset at your age is IQ, intellect, knowledge, understanding, comprehension, truth. These are your pillars of development.
And you think reading books is the best way to enhance that?
Finest way, yeah. That's the best way. But meeting people, working with people, working on projects, that's going to give you skills and sense. You can't just sit around the house and read books and think, you know what, you're capable. No, you're not capable.
You have to apply that.
Yeah, test it. See if it works.
You said moral, political, financial, and
mental.
All right, so I want to talk about some of the problems the youth faces here, and like how to sort of get away from it. One common theme I've noticed is everyone is addicted to some sort of thing, whether it's porn, weed, or Instagram, all these instant gratification kind of stuff. It's like, the circle thing the hamster runs into. It's basically they're running into the same cycle again and again. First they say I'm going to stop, and then they end up back there again. So my question to you is...
It's called a hamster wheel.
Hamster wheel, yeah. So my question to you is sort of, how do you break free from that sort of... It's basically like chains. You're chained. You
a purpose. Hamster wheel is the antonym of a purpose. If you have a purpose, then you are going to run faster. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to be running towards a certain, goal. When you don't have a purpose, you're still going to be running. This planet is going to make you run, but that's just a hamster wheel. So from this addiction to that addiction, what do you think? Kids are into these 4 things? No. You're going to, 10 years older, look at your father or his father or whatever, those age people here. Yeah. They're going to have different kind of addictions, but they are going to be still addicted. Hamster wheels. Chasing that status quo of, bigger cars and making that cut over his circle of friends that, you know what, I'm better off than these 10 people. That's the statement of success.
That's basically the main problem nowadays.
Yeah,
Chasing
another
cars.
hamster wheel. You just see, if you're stuck in a smaller hamster wheel, you're going to actually get fascinated by a bigger wheel. So it's not the wheel,
Yeah.
it's the philosophy. That's the problem.
So you said to break free from that, you need purpose.
Single center. That's our purpose right now. We are in a political catastrophe.
So you're saying this is our purpose right now. Does our purpose change over time, or the purpose of Islam is always having one single center?
No. Right now we lost our center. Once we have the center, then human progress of intellect and sense, and reaching toward the stars, understanding God.
But for now, our purpose.
Yeah. First, that's what I'm saying. My house is on fire. I can't talk about Harvard degrees right now. I want to see where the next fire station is or where the fire truck's coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying the best way to break free from addictions and all this sort of
Yeah.
stuff is
You need
purpose.
to settle yourself into a different, a total different set of actions to take care of my, bigger problems. So most of the people who are going to be stuck in addictions, you'll see a correlation between them and ignorance. Basically, they won't even know how or what to do in generally in life. They'll be your regular hippies.
And this is not a small problem, by the way. It's like a very
I know most of the people.
whole
Yeah.
people's whole lives are like based on this hamster wheel.
Yeah, because they're not trained into understanding why we're here. It takes a lot of training. Not that much if you're a child. It takes a lot if you're 40 plus.
Yeah.
At your age, it's pretty easy. You understand because you're emotionally, experiencing the whole planet. Once you're really told, trained, and settled into that, there's a purpose of life. You can't just die an ordinary man who did nothing except, he take care of himself or his family. That's not by Islam. That's not a job of a Muslim.
What do you think causes sadness and depression, especially here? It's very
Depression is a gift. Okay.
really.
Yeah, it is a gift. It is the voice of the inside telling you that you need a bigger philosophy, man. You need a purpose.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Depression is a symptom of your body telling you that you didn't figure it out yet, man. Why aren't you figuring out the core of the first job, the bigger job, the biggest job? If you cannot understand that, then you're gonna try and do whatever you can, and then you're gonna end up in depression.
So another thing is, sort of people my age, 16 to 25, should they basically, how can they manage school, this, that? Should they like put themselves into everything, or should they like lay back a little bit? What sort of
I'll
your
give you an
advice?
example. In the Cold War, Russians came up with this
Yeah.
philosophy of Mother Russia, and they have to say Mother Russia, and build it up. Every school curriculum was designed around it. Every parenting model was designed around it. So they had a purpose of going to school, not for themselves, but as a community, right? For the whole country, for Mother Russia. Where do you think came up with this concept of Mother Russia? Who came up with this? Who came up with this Akhand Bharat concept? Who came up with this Israeli Zionist concept? The Macedonian Greek concept? The Victorian English concept? One center, everybody. Who came up with this? See, why do humans actually behave the way they behave? They behave for creating a single center, and we call it imperialism now, okay? To dominate everybody under your laws and your rules, and your regulations. That's innate. Human beings are designed to live in the community. And for that community to have equal and fairness across the board, we need a single body deciding all of this. Okay?
I had another question. Since we can see divorce rates are going through the roof and dating is increasing in the modern day, so why do you think that is, and what can we do to sort of fix it up?
Divorce? Did you say divorce rate?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just relationships in general, you know?
Well, generally we are we're in such a high level of dopamine addiction.
Yeah.
It's made us selfish. If I just said selfish, it would have been a philosophical answer. Now put dopamine in. It's an answer with a solution. Okay? The more you are selfish, the more selfish you are, the higher your probability to divorce your wife or husband. Simple.
And why are we so selfish now?
Because we're trained into believing that's what I'm saying, that I am independently going to decide and that everything is for me and I want everything. Okay, all I need is everything. So that's a regular philosophy of every, especially Westerners. Okay, they call it liberation and the American dream and whatever. You need to understand that it's causing a lot more deterrence in the individual psychology of the rest of the planet. And I'm not blaming just America. Every mother and father of Pakistan is actually doing literally way better job of making sure their kids are living the American dream than George Washington himself. So it's not the American dream. It's the concept, a twisted concept of, liberating human beings from even morality, even, your social requirements of living in a community. That's why you see isolation as men, not just as couples, not as relatives, not as fathers or mothers. As regular men and women, we have, been isolated because of the fumes of capitalism does not allow anybody else to breathe other than myself around my areas or wherever I deem is my space.
When we see the Muslim youth sort of, developing the join gangs and they're trying to, whenever they hear the name of Islam, to sort of say, I'm going to see you later when I grow up and this, that. The sort of, there's dislike for Islam from the youth that I've seen.
I would dislike the kind of Islam these folks have given me. It has no solutions, not as an individual, not as a community, as a group. And Muslim youth, whoever goes into gangs and whatever, those boys, they're trying to chase pride, a sense of pride. When you do not have a single community, how are you going to define or give pride to your kids? You know what I'm saying? So it is a natural reaction that these kids are going to actually, chase these sort of avenues. Of course, they're wrong, and of course, they're perverted, they're twisted, they're mutated. That's the worst a human being can do. Try and join gangs and try and do whatever they can just to bully themselves into life. That's as low as that's the bottom of the barrel. But how did and why did it happen? They never got the identity. If you do not have a single center, you do not have identities. There is no identity called Pakistan or Indian or Bengali Muslim. Okay? This is not an identity. A Muslim is a Muslim regardless of whether he's born in America, Canada, Antarctica, or the Bering Sea. He's a Muslim because he's connected to the center. His laws come from there. His rights and wrongs come from there. His morality comes. His definition of progress comes from there.
Yeah.
Okay? What else do you think identity is? And he's demanded by the center to work for the center. Okay? That's identity. I'm busy because I've got a job. My boss is up there. I've got a job. There are no off days. That's my identity. I'm a political being. I got to create influence. Make sure I stop the evil from my own hand first. That's my identity. How are you going to do that as Pakistanis in India? No, you can't. Pakistanis in China. No, you can't. Pakistanis in Mecca. No, you can't. That's the worth of a nationalist identity. You can't even stop the evil in any other place. Such worthless human beings are going to be depressed and trying to find, petty avenues of gangs and tattoos and whatnot.
Yeah. So what is the difference that we are not like the early Muslims?
That is the difference. We had a single center with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself defining that center, being in that center, torching everything with the light of, the Quran. Every single thing.
How do you make a single center now that we have so many sects? You got Shia, Sunni, Hanbali, So many different things
Yeah,
now.
that's one of the
And
main.
now you got nationalism as well, so
Yeah.
it's even worse.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot more now. Gender identity is going to be different as well. Everything is going to be
Yeah.
scattered, and
getting
individual group
worse.
level. Yeah. Hence, the bigger need of mental capital first. You're going to argue yourself into it. Somebody has argued us out of it. You need to argue yourself into it. Okay, people want a sensible argument. You better put weight into your arguments. That's your influence. How do you think they got us out of it? They argued people out of it. They didn't force us out of it. Somebody gave the concept of, this nation state and all of that. Commonwealth is a bigger concept than Australia or England combined. A Commonwealth is a single center. You see, Australia cannot prosper without Commonwealth, nor England, nor anybody else. Why do you think they didn't change the laws in Australia? Why didn't they change the English laws? It was a sensible thing to do. That's what I'm saying. Create the sense now. Express the sense. Okay?
I have a question for myself, because this is doubting me a little bit.
Go on.
We see Muslims struggling around the world. Yeah, China, Kashmir, Palestine. My question is, if God is so merciful and Rahman Rahim, why is He allowing this to happen?
Allowing death to happen?
Of Muslims, yeah.
Muslims. Like a non-Muslim death is also
Yeah, even that.
yeah. Your grandfather alive? His father? Was he a murderer? So his death is justified just because he died a 90-year-old? Why does a 90-year-old guy, why is it okay for a 90-year-old guy to die and not a 9-year-old?
I mean, the massacre or like the bloodshed that's going on. Why is
In
it?
Muslims, bloodshed has been going on in every part of the world.
Yeah.
That's a test for human beings, not for God. God has put us to a test. We are not putting God to a test. Okay? If God was doing anything, that would be like, why is God doing this? God has put us in a test. And we are saying God is doing this. You want God to come in and intervene directly and say, you know what, I'm not going to let this happen? That's what you're saying, right? That's what the day of judgment is for. This is the bigger test. He's not going to come in the middle of a test.
That's right.
Okay?
So sort of the problems that Muslims deal with here. What's the best way to deal with Islamophobia?
Rational argumentation.
Problem is a lot of LGBT stuff being taught at school. How do you sort of deal with that? And
Yeah, you deal with training parents because they're sincere with their kids. Tell them that, if a 6-year-old could take any kind of decision, we would have given him or her those kind of decisions. For example, vote for the president, drink, drive a car. But a 6-year-old cannot make those kind of decisions. And you're actually telling him to drive his life, making critical changes to his body, which is irrecoverable, irreversible. You know what I'm saying? If he cannot take those kind of decisions, why are you making him take those kind of? So this is preposterous to teach all of this in school. You can teach them in university and colleges, and by that time you will be literally argued out of campuses as whoever is going to put an argument there. But unless you teach kids any kind of philosophy, any kind of change, any kind of definition, any kind of value, if you're starting with kids, it's going to be long-lasting, deeper in impact, bigger in repercussions, good or bad. So if you're putting all of this in school, then you're, making sure that catastrophe is upon us. Making sure of it. It's not by a fluke that they went to schools. It's not by fluke. It is done by design. You want Islam to be in schools, right? The church wants Christianity to be in school. Why? Because we believe that it is right. So we want those values to be in kids so that they can grow into it. So anything goes into school, there's a belief system behind this. So when they went into this, LGBT went into school, I was like, okay, you know what? Now there's a belief system behind this. Do you get that? So so that means there's a big body of think tanks running all of this. There's a lot of politics.
And I'll sort of end on discussion and I'll wrap it up. On this note, do you think it's recommended for Muslims to live? On your opinion, do you think it's better for Muslims to live in a Muslim country or a non-Muslim country?
There are no Muslim countries, so live wherever you can right now. That's what I'm chasing for. Make a Muslim country so that everybody can prosper wherever they are. And they can prosper themselves and the Muslim country. But there is no Muslim country. Name a Muslim country. So this notion is sitting on a redundant conception of Muslim countries. There is no Muslim country. Right now the question would be, should we go to places where our moral capital is going to go up? Yeah, well, Australia is going to raise your moral capital versus what, Pakistan? Of course. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Where mental capital is going to go up? Yeah, of course. Political capital is going to go up. You need to do that. You cannot do that in Pakistan. Financial capital? Of course. If there is a weaker or weakest Muslim country in the world as well, you need to go there or be out for the purpose of prospering that by financing it or, making more money and sending it there. But there is no Muslim country. I don't even recommend Muslims sending money to Pakistan unless, of course, they change the model of their governance to Islam. Otherwise, we're helping Pakistan out of Islam, man. We're ensuring it. So that's how it is.
So I'll just wrap it all up. So you mentioned science is in the Quran, and we should excel in that. You mentioned the issue of Palestine. You cannot compare it with you cannot compare Israel with Hamas. You mentioned what the youth should do here,
Yeah.
which is to wake up and sort of build one body and read the seerah, get into political, financial, mental, moral sort of areas. And you said the Quran is our headquarter, meaning our center.
Yeah.
And we should follow it.
Yeah.
Full on. So would you suggest the youth to learn Arabic as well?
They use what in Arabic?
Would you suggest the youth to learn Arabic as well?
Youth, yeah. Suggest? I think that's the bare minimum requirement. Otherwise, you need somebody else to tell you what Allah is saying. Why don't you just listen to him himself by reading and understand Arabic? If you cannot speak Arabic, I'm sorry, you're going to have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
A lot of problems. Then you won't be able to gain that mental capital, at least not to that degree.
And you mentioned to break free from addictions, you need a purpose. So that's sort of, would you like to say anything else before to the Muslim youth here?
I would like to say that, there are no flukes in Islam. There are no flukes in the Sunnah of Allah. You're here by design. There's a purpose. You're not here by chance. You were put here. Understand your value here and understand whatever you can gain here, your knowledge, your sense and attributes, your skills. Gain them here. Make sure you put them to use wherever they are needed in the world. If you were in Pakistan or India or wherever, you wouldn't have been able to put it globally at use for whatever purpose. And I'm telling you the purpose. Make sure you're the strongest Australian in the world. If you're not the strongest Australian in the world, how the hell are you going to be the strongest Muslim in the world?
Yeah, so that means we have a high responsibility.
Way bigger responsibility. If Australia is not prospering because of you, you think you're going to prosper Islam? So you need to be mentally competent, morally the finest person, financially the strongest person, politically the most influential, the biggest activist.
Mm.
Okay. So you make sure you understand you have a way bigger chance, way bigger handicap that you have to do than regular Pakistani in Lahore. That's how it is.
Okay, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.